offer. Yeah. So it is something uses and gratification where it is talking about the needs of the audience. The media believes that it has identified and catered to the needs of the audiences. So it may be that audiences have needs that are not been addressed by existing media text. In fact, many of our uses and pleasures can be seen to be making the best of to the media that we are exposed, and which may be different from the one intended by the producer. The producer can give it only as an entertainment show, but somehow we feel satisfied by seeing that one, and we feel that that we are using this platform and we are trying to fulfill our pleasures. Yeah. On the other side, we also see that uses and gratification theory, an approach as to how consistently media audiences seek to satisfy the specific media needs. The slogan for the theory is, why do people use media and why do they use them? And it discusses as how the users choose media to satisfy specific needs on a social basis. It can be on the relaxation basis, or even on the basis to escape from reality itself. So that what it means to say is that we watch the television or we take the help of the media. It could be for the social basis, like listening to the news and all those things. It could be entertainment, or the serials or the music where we try to relax, or it is something where we are trying to escape, either by watching the movie or going to a movie or something. So that is how it is trying to, we are using the media for our own gratification. This theory takes its consideration the audience that they actively seek media does not apply to the passive interpreter. So now we also have to understand that media needs to have an embedded value. So media, when we say media, it is something where we see that it has become a cultural. When a culture becomes progressively dependent on this media to meet the needs, we see that an understandable consumption would be that media that is garnered through an internet is more having or projecting or putting forward to the culture than the traditional forms of the communication. Yeah. So now here, when we see the traditional forms of communication like television, radio, print, and all those things, more than that, we see that with the growth of the technology, internet is more embedded into our culture, and we follow more internet. For those wanting to be truly media literate, it is very crucial that all media messages should be having embedded values and point of view. Yeah, POV. That is what these days the trend is all about. So all media messages contain at least two types of values and at least two types of views. One, those of the creator and those of the audiences. So to illustrate this point, considering an evening newscast on local television, we would like to believe that news is unbiased and free of prejudice. This isn't the case. Even by a simple choice of words, such as calling a person a victim or a suspect, can be termed to be being a prejudice towards the message. So all the media messages contain embedded values and point of views. People use their singular abilities, convictions, and encounters to develop their own implications from the media messages. However, we see that media and the media messages can impact the convictions, the perspectives, the qualities, the practices, and the popularity-based interaction. So, depending upon the media, we will make our own understanding and have our own perception. So that is what it says, that that media messages are something where people have their own singular ability to understand and make its own conventions, perspective, qualities, practices, and popularity. So creators produce media using their own background and experience as reference points. Since everyone is different, everyone has a different point of view. So to be free of bias, the newscaster would need to refer to each person they talk as a person, or this person was arrested, this person is in the hospital, rather than talking that victim, gang rape, and all those things. So we have to remove the bias. So media messages must also contain the values of their audience members in order to be accepted. For example, a newspaper editor might want to expose a large local company for their wrongdoing. So this could be an editor's bias. The media company might refrain from doing it, as it could mean many lost of jobs for the readers of the newspaper. The audience would either reject the story, lowering the credibility or readership of the newspaper, or it may damage the local economy, which may in turn affect the newspaper's own business. So, such decisions should be planned meticulously, and they have to see that it is going in harmony with the readers, with the organizations, and with all everyone in the society. Moving on, we'll learn about the media and the agenda. Media is also an agenda setter. As we have learned into the theory, that agenda setting is also one of the theories of media. So, media, we understand, has a plural form, which in broader perspective describes any channel of communication, which can be in terms of printed to the digital and encompasses art, news, educational content, and numerous other forms of information. So we see that, anything that can reach or influence people, including phones, televisions, internet, can be considered as a form of media. Now, with this modern digital media, we include all forms of communication that are transmitted electronically across the world through computer networks and fiber optics. Some of these modern forms of media are internet and social media, where we see Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat have completely revolutionized our world. So this is what the media is. Now, what is the media and agenda setting? So, agenda is described through agenda setting, which is the best idea of that public thinks, and it is set by the media. This theory was introduced by Maxwell and McCone and Dr. Donald Shaw in 1972. It focuses on how media shapes and the viewer and how it shapes the viewer's perspectives and how the viewers perceive politics and ultimately how they vote. When analyzing agenda setting, there were basically two assumptions to be considered. The first is media and the press filter and shape reality rather than it reflects. Then when the media focuses on just a few issues and subjects, the public tends to perceive those issues as more important. So we also see that there is an influence of public opinion through media. How it happens is that when a person reads or watches can be a major factor in how individual views any particular issue. With the modern access to the news sources, people often choose to rely on specific media to guide through the political world. So political edits such as news anchors, reporters, talk show hosts, political pundits, and politicians, they wield an enormous amount of influence on many voters. This is especially true for the voters whose views are already similar to those of the political elite they follow. This is how media plays a role through agenda setting by forming the public opinion, influence on the public opinion. Then example of agenda setting. So the best example of agenda setting is that in 2021, when in August to September 2021, the most covered news across the globe was is the humiliating withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan. The news, if you see, that was been reported from top to bottom, so breathless coverage was given, continuous coverage was given with the urgency of impending doom. However, it was obvious that most people in different countries of the world the return of the undramatic rule in Afghanistan had of no significance and was really disappointing. But even that, we see that, at the same time, there was an hurricane, then there was, flooding in the New York that took a bad back street, but this was mostly highlighted. The going to the undemocratic ways of the life one rather than the saving of the lives and, the coverage of the health crisis was taking the second position. So the foregrounding of particular issues of Afghanistan and the certain attributes to it, that is returning to the regressive order, form the first level and the second level agenda setting respectively in this case. So this is how we see that, media plays a role as an agenda setting. So thus, this is how we have come to the end of this chapter. The next is role of books in media literacy. So the chapter highlights basically the etymology of the books, describes the history of the books, the types of the books, and has explains about the books as a powerful media and discusses the role of the books in media literacy. So we understand what is a book is. Book is basically a set of a written, printed and illustrated or a blank sheet made of ink, paper and other materials, usually fastened together to hinge on one side. So a book is a medium for recording information in the form of writing or images, typically composed of many pages. So a book also refers to the work of the literature or a main division. It is not a notebook or a textbook, but when we are saying a book, the other diversified forms of a book can be of works of literature or a main division or of such work. So, library and information science, a book is called as a monograph to distinguish it from the serial periodicals and such as magazines, journals, or the newspaper. So, book is basically different from the science. What we see as magazines or the periodicals or the journals. So, as an intellectual object, a book is typically a composition at a great length that it takes a considerable to compose and yet considered as an investment of time to read. Then the etymology is that the book comes from the old English block, which in turns come from the Germanic root book, cognated to beach. Similarly, there are certain languages where we see that this word has come from. So the Latin codex, meaning a book in the modern sense, originally meant book or block of wood. So they basically it is a word that has come from Old English book, which is a Germanic word. Now, history of books. When writing systems were created in ancient civilization, a variety of yeah, anyone? A variety of objects such as stone, clay, tree bark, metal sheets, and bones were used for writing. So this is in that ancient times that we see that the system of writing we can see definitely, and it was the source that was used to write was the stone, clay, tree bark, metal sheets, and bones were used. So alphabetic writing emerged in the Egypt after 5,000 years ago. About 5,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians would often write on papyrus, a plant grown along the Nile River. At first, the words were not separated from each other and there was no punctuation. Then later, we see that texts were written from right to left, left to right, so that alternative lines read in opposite direction. The technical term for this type of writing is called as a boustrophedon, which means literally ox turning, for the way a farmer drives an ox to plow his field. So there were certain ways of writing is what basically it means to. Then we see that the form of a tablet is a physical, robust writing medium suitable for a easy transport and writing. It is basically flattened clay tablets were mostly dry pieces of clay that could be, easily carried and impressed with a style. They were used as a writing medium, especially for writing in throughout the Bronze Age and also in the Iron Age. Tablets were covered in wax-coated pieces of wood thick enough to record the impression. Then the other thing is the scrolls were used from papyrus tree, thick layer material. We see so that was also used, and they were basically glued together to form a scroll. Tea bark such as lime and other materials were used. Now, after ancient times, we see in the Middle times that we found about the manuscripts. So, the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD saw the decline of the culture of the ancient Rome. Papyrus became difficult to obtain due to the lack of contact with Egypt, and parchment used for centuries turned into the main writing material. Parchment processed from animal skin, commonly made of a calf skin, sheep skin, or goat skin, were used for writing in the past. So this makes it more suitable for writing but leaves it very reactive to relative humidity changes as it turns into becomes wetter. Then antiquity. Different types of ink were known in antiquity, usually prepared from soot and gum, and later also from gallnuts and iron vitriol. This gave writing brownish black color, but black or brown were not the only colors used. There were texts written in red or even gold, and different colors were being used. The first book used parchment or vellum or calfskin for the pages. The book covers were made of wood and covered with the leather. Because dried parchment tends to assume the form it had, it becomes a hard. The books were fitted with the straps. During the Middle Ages, we see that public libraries appeared up to 18th century, and books were often chained to the bookshelf. Then the wood block was also wood block printing. I think this wood block printing is still into the trend. This is a relief image of an entire page was carved into the blocks of wood, and ink was used to print the copies of that particular page. This was basically originated in China in the Han Dynasty before 2020 AD as a method of printing on textile and later on the paper, and widely used throughout the East Asia. The oldest dated book printed by this method is the Diamond Sutra in 868 AD. The method called woodcut wood, when used in art, arrived in Europe in the 14th century. Books as a block books, playing cards, and religious pictures were produced by this method. Creating an entire book was a painstaking process as each page was shaped from a hand-carved block that would crack if stored for long. The monk or people who worked were highly paid. Then in the Middle East, we see that people of various religions like Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, Muslims, and ethnic backgrounds of Syriac, Coptic, Persian, Arab in the Middle East produced and books in the Islamic Golden Age, that is in the mid 8th century to 1258, developing advanced techniques in the Islamic calligraphy, miniatures, and bookbinding. A number of cities in the medieval Islamic world have production centers and markets. A research scholar, Yahudi, says that in his time, Baghdad had over 100 booksellers. Bookshops were often situated around the town's principal mosque in a Marrakesh, Morocco, that has a street name Kutubiyin or bookseller in the English. So we see that if we see the way back in the in the previous years in the back days, in the Middle East also we had the culture of the books. So the medieval Muslims would also use a method of reproducing reliable copies of book in large quantities known as check reading, in contrast to the traditional media or a producing copy of a single manuscript. In the checking reading method only, authors could authorize the copies, and this was done in public season in which the copies read the copy used to read the copy. So by using this as a writing material, the relatively cheap paper instead of parchment or papyrus, in the words of a pedestrian Islamic book, accomplished it became to a crucial significance, not only to the history to the Islamic book, but also to the whole world of the books. Then we have modern world. So now it is with the technology driven, the present world is what we will try to understand how the books are. So steam powered printing presses became popular in the 19th century. So these machines could print 1100 sheets per hour, but workers could set it for 2000 letters per hour. We see that there is a monotype and linotype typecast setting machines were introduced during this 19th century. They could set more than 6000 letters per hour, an entire line of type at once. There have been numerous improvements in the printing press, including the freedom of press through a gradual relaxation of restrictive censorship on laws, intellectual property, public domain, copyright. So in no time, we see that, European book production in 20th mid-century has rose to more than 2 lakh titles per year. Through the 20th century, libraries have faced an ever-increasing feed of published books. and that led to the information explosion. And adding to that was the advent of the electronic publishing and the internet that has resulted into new information available on the web and not necessarily the print in the form of a paper. So we see that there is a digital library with e-books and other online fields are also been available in the electronic media. An online book is an e-book that is available through use of internet. Though many digital produced books are available, public access is limited to the public who can afford it. It could be something paid or something. So paper publishing with restricted numbers is still in vogue despite the declining number of paper, paper publishing. So, however, there is an effort to digitally convert books that are in the public domain for unlimited redistribution and infinite availability. This effort has been spearheaded by Project Gutenberg combined with distributed proofreaders. So, they want the books that are physically available to be digitally available. Then coming to Indian manuscripts, Goddess Saraswati image dated 132 AD was excavated from Kanakali Tila, which depicts her holding a manuscript in her left hand, represented as a bond, and tied the palm leaf or a birch bark manuscript. So, if dating back to the 132 AD, somewhere, there was an excavation that led to the, goddess Saraswati image where she was holding manuscript in her hand, left hand, that represented a tied palm leaf bird's bark manuscript. The text in the palm leaf manuscripts was inscribed with a knife pen on a rectangular cut and cured palm leaves sheet. Coloring were then applied to the surface and wiped off, leaving the ink in the inside grooves. Each sheet typically had a hole through which a string could pass, and with this, the sheet were tied together with a string to bind like a book. So this is how we see that, the manuscripts, Indian manuscripts were formed. So the other one is the modern manufacturing. We see that the methods for the printing and binding of the books continued were not changed from the 20th century till the latest from the 15th century to the 20th century. However, through the mechanization, a book printer in 1900 had much in common with Gutenberg's use of movable metal types, which were assembled into the words, lines, and pages, and then printed by letterpress to create. So basically, it is talking about the development of printing technology. So till then, we had non-mobilized printing technology. See, now we see that letterpress and litho printing and all those things got evolved in 19th century. Traditionally, book papers were off-white and low-white. Opaque papers were being used to show throw off a texture from different sides of the pages to the other. So different paper qualities were being used depending upon the type of the book, and the machine finished coated papers, wood free uncoated papers, and coated fine papers and special fine papers were there seen. Then next we see that, there was a revolution because of the printing. So some books, particularly those were with the shortened runs and had a few copies were printed on the digital press, while most books are printed on the web press, which are fed by the continuous roll of paper. So we see that as the production line circulates, a complete book is collected through in one stack next to the another, and another web press carries or the folding itself. So this is talking about the development of the printing technology, how the papers come and automatically get folded. So then we also see the trend of the binding. After the signatures are folded and gathered, they move into the binding section. In the middle of the last century, there were still many trade binders, standalone binding companies, which did no printing, and they were only specialized only in the binding. So during the times of this letter pressing, we see that typesetting and printing took place. So printed sheets, on the other hand, were been easily moved. Then finishing also was an important part because it was making cases happen offline and prior to the book arrival at the binding level. The most basic case making, two pieces of cardboard are placed onto a glued piece of cloth with space between them and glued thinner board cut to the width of. So the finishing of the book to see was also been taken care of. So this case making, the stack of cases will go to the stamping area for adding decoration and type. The next, this is all about the non-digital. So now we will move to the digital part. So we have digital printing, as you are aware, we have digital printing, then you have e-book printing, yeah. So with the recent developments, we see that there is a digital printing happening. So digital printing has permitted the manufacturers of smaller quantities than offset because of the absence of make readies and of the spoilage. So we see these numbers are of course, only approximate and will vary from supplier. Then we have a e-book. So in 2000, due to the rise in the availability of handheld computing devices, this has led to the opportunity to share the text through electronic means, which became an appealing option for the media. So the term e-book is a contraction of electronic book. It refers to a book length publication in the digital form. An ebook is usually made available through the internet. Also on the CDs, you can get the copies of that one. So we know so the electronic version of your book is called as an ebook. So now let us see what are the types of the books. The books can be classified on the various, factors. So few of that are, it can be classified by content. It can be by the fiction, or it could be a non-fiction or binding or a cover format. So the books are been classified in this four different manners: fiction, non-fiction, binding, cover format, or by content. So the content is the most common separation because it will say whether it is a fiction or a non-fiction. This can be found in most collection libraries and the bookstores. So there are other types including books of sheet music also. So sheet music is totally different. So now fiction is something that many of the books are published today are fiction based, that they contain invented materials or creative literature. So the novels and all those things. Whereas the non-fiction books are in principle based on the facts. So these binding and cover formats, hard cover books have a stiff binding, paperback covers have cheaper flexible cover covers. So that those are the different kinds of the books we see in the market. Now, how books are books really a powerful media? So let us understand. So what exactly why are we trying to talk about the books as part of the media literacy? Because we see that books as a mass media are considered as slow in their influence, but they may also be the most overlooked medium in programs to shape opinion. A book commands an attention, whereas a brochure, an ad, or sponsored film seldom draws any. So we respect when it is received with enthusiastic endorsement from the readers. And before the advent of internet, few people relatively had the freedom to speak to others. It has been assumed that the competition would bring our diverse points of view and approximate a fairly free discussion among the knowledgeable people. So a very popular notion we see that e-books in the future are going to be interactive and have lots of images and videos. There will be more a mix of TVs and games that we see as books today, but because of the technology development. So books force you to engage your imagination on a scale far above any other media. You can't consume a book, you have to imagine it, you have to use your brain at maximum effectively because you have to think of everything. So we see that books are also a source of information and knowledge. So therefore, it is also a source. It is part of the media. Now let us understand the role of books in media literacy. So when we are talking about that one, we have to understand that when we write on information, when taking into consideration the audience, we see that there are certain books that really are very important as part of the media literacy. In this electronic world, the notebook continues to be an essential tool of a journalist trade, where whether working in the print or any other media, we have to maintain a notebook. So few people have memories good enough to remember everything they are told, and there is no room in journalism for getting things, just write or roughly write. The notebook always allow you to record essential details and organize information. So it frees your mind for thinking. And it is, however, we see that it is of no use carrying a notebook around unless you are able to use it properly and consistently. So we have to we keep writing and all those things. So we have to use the books. So there is one contact book. When we say contact book, it is referred. It is often said that a reporter is should be good as a contact book. So whether it is a real book or simply files on a computer or a personal digital assistant, it should serve the same purpose of providing good contacts. So what is a contact book? So it is basically just an address book, the sort of a things which many people keep by their telephone with a list of their friend numbers. The best one have a thumb index so that you can turn straight to the letter. So generally we keep, the contact books, it is talking about that one. Also we see that, there are newsroom contact books. So in addition to the contact books, which a reporter carries, it is useful for the newsroom also to have a contact books. This will contain all the people who are willing to help your news organization. Many of them will be the same people in the reporter's personal contact books. So if as a reporter, as you have the contact numbers, it could be the same contact numbers that you provide to the news organization. However, we see that, it is important for the newspaper, radio and television station to have a collective memory so that each reporter does not start from the beginning or the scratch. So reporters will probably put their personal contacts into the newsroom contacts. Sometimes a contact trusts only one particular reporter, not the whole newsroom. So this person name should not be put into the newsroom contacts. In case another reporter deals with the person badly, it is basically a common understanding that, if you are a good source, then you have to proceed, but that doesn't mean that, the other person is not a good source of a contact. Then compiling a style book. I hope you understand what is a style book. Every news organization has its own style. What the typography, the letter style is been followed in Hindu will not be followed by Deccan Chronicle or Times of India. So they have their own style. It's a compiling of the style book in a sense that, they follow that, in the first page, how the matter goes, whether it is 2 column, 4 column, or with picture or without picture, or a full 4 column picture. So that is the style that they follow as per the organization, and therefore it is an organizational policy that every newspaper organization has its own style book. So it would be a huge job to write a style book, but every organization has to have it. Your style book can be either in a traditional book form or as a file on a computer. So basically, it is giving the style that how if you are working for a particular organization, you need to have, you maintain a style book, though it is a difficult work, but every organization has it. Then other thing where we refer to the books is as a references section. So definitely when we are saying news and media and all those things, we need to have lots of research so that the report is basically verified and is based on the facts. So that way we see that, there are so many references book, and probably this is the most important thing for a reporter to have the references books, because that is how you keep updating your knowledge and you try to stick to the principles of the journalism. Then we also see that, dictionaries and encyclopedias are also one of the source of the information. Then we have yearbooks, then we have atlases and gazetters. So these are all the different sources of media forms where we require a media literacy. Then we have a biography. So that way we see that, books are also part of a media for some reason or the other, as they're associated as a contact books or style sheets and all those things. So this is all about that one. Then we have another block called as media and society. Yeah. So in this you have a mass media and society and new media and society units. So This mass media and society basically deals with the importance of the media, talks about the critical analysis and the role of the media, explains the media impact on the society, also explains about the social responsibility of the media and describes the media and the cultural changes. So we understand that media is very important because it has a various forms and it reaches the larger audiences. So in this media, apart from that, in a democratic country, we find media is the reflection of our own society. Yeah, media and print, electronic or the web form helps in informing people, entertain, educate the public by creating awareness about the current happenings. So that way we see that media is the reflection of our society. Media such as newspapers, books, magazines, movie studios, television networks, radio stations, direct emails, etc. All, when we talk, are different forms of the media. And we see that there is so much of drastic change from the beginning of the civilized society to till dates to the till date because of the technological inventions like Guglielmo Marconi, who has invented the radio. Then we had Gutenberg, who has invented. So we see that that Marshall McLuhan has said that that media has become so significant that the world has turned into a global village, and the world is now a media. So therefore, we see that there is an influence of media on. There is an influence of media on the society also. We see that the media for the masses, it helps to get the information. It helps to get the. It keeps updated. It talks about the vigilance of the society. So therefore, there is definitely an influence of media on the society. Now, if we talk about the critical analysis of the role of the media in the society, controversial stories are reported and printed at times without checking the veracity of the facts. The public is meant to believe everything they are told and not question. So media on its own can easily assert an opinion with few taps. It can lead to the further investigation and front page headlines. So we see that with the changing times and with so much of competition, there is a trend that there are so many controversial stories. When we say that Indian economy is growing, is Indian economy really growing? If Indian economy is growing well, then why other sectors are not doing well? It remains a question. So there are some controversial stories. So we need to see that media functions as a guardsman to protect the interests of the public interest, and should stop the wrongdoings and talk about public should more concentrate on the public consciousness. Yeah. So in the current times, media turns into an inseparable part of the humanity. When we see back date to the Vedas, to the Upanishads, to the kings and the emperors, media has always played a crucial role in molding our society. So the advent of television led to the visual media, news media are essential in interpreting and giving meanings to the issues and the hot burning topics. So however, we see that there is a bad effect on generations. Media has definitely left a positive role, and also it has left a bad effect on generations, so especially to the youth, as they have been strongly influenced by the media. And when we see children, the sector, when we talk about the children, then they are the people where we find that the media has badly affected them. Sometimes they focus on the negative side of the media, resulting in bad influence. However, inspiration to commit crime is drawn by following media. Whoever controls the media controls the mind. So media function is in a perfect manner is what we have to see. It should be socially desirable, act like an corporation. It should have build a tolerance. It should create a sharing kind of an attitude. It should have a communal harmony, and it should also protect the patriotism. So that way, so the media should work more positively than being working on negatively. So media's impact on the society can be understood in terms of media occupying your leisure time. Yeah. Then we see that the mass media takes up a high proposition. Being today Sunday, if you didn't have a classes, definitely you will watch television, cinema, or listen to the radio, or enjoy reading magazine or something. So this media is occupying our leisure time. For children, the time spent on the television watching equivalent to the time spent in the school, family, and the friends. So in the school, home and friends, all are acknowledged as major socializing influences on the children, and a huge debate in favor and against surrounds the possible effects of the media. So the question of effects is typically raised with an urgency deriving from public rather than an academic agenda. So with a simplicity which is inappropriate to the complex nature of the issue. It is too complex to understand, but what it basically means to say is that that there is an impact that is being left on the children, because we are talking about the youth and the children because they are the future of the tomorrow. So however we see that we as a mature person try to take media for our leisure spending, but for the children it leaves an impact. So media and society are closely related to each other. The extensive impact of media on society can be seen these days. Media reflects our society, it works, and where it shows what it is constituting. Then with the technological advancements, our society has absorbed the expansion in the tougher in the thoughts and the ideas of the people, and our society has accepted the single invention starting from the printing press to the latest smartphone. So we are anyhow connected. So now with the growing of the technology, we see that everything is just a click away. Even the information, it is on your fingertips. So there are various forms of media that help to inform, educate, and entertain our society. Media can be in print form, though in the print form in terms of newspapers, books, and magazines. Media can also include the electronic form for spreading information, which is the most used media of the mass communication. Now, with the help of the radio and TV, listeners and viewers are not only getting updated, but it also creates an understanding of current happening. So, radio being an audio medium helps in disseminating information to every nook and corner. So, radio has played a vital role in creating a platform for imagination. Now, coming to the social media, it has noticed that it has become one of the most popular medium and most accessed media for communication these days. So, social media has brought different people from different geographical area on one platform. Like, for example, we have this Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, and all those things. This is how we see that they are click away. Even in the daily news and views covers a wide range of topics, meetings up with a variety of needs. Through a list of emotions showing feelings coming accordingly. The social media acts as an umbrella that constitutes a variety of interesting features that made our life simple. So that is how we see that it is a click away. So but then we at the same time we see that there is an impact of a fake news. So we see that media has a positive and negative effect and has been influencing the public over generations. But these days we see that there is a fake news impact that has impacted the society, and we see that there are sensitive issues. So social media like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp are playing a major role in spreading fake news. Fake news can be as simple as spreading misinformation or dangerous as smearing hateful propaganda. So spreading fake news by some religious or hate mongering disturbs the peace in the society, and it should be avoided. And socialization.
Ma'am, what is the use of spreading a fake news?
See, now that remains a very debatable question, but then we have to understand that it is intentionally and with some purpose. Now, the IT cells that are running about the political media. So now, for example, you have X political party and Y political party. So to gauge, to set an propaganda, to set an agenda, they try to use a fake news. So it could be something related to their political parties, either to project them that they are the best in the interest of getting the vote banks and all those things. So but whatsoever it be, it is something intentionally and purposive. So the fake news, but we as a media literacy students have to understand that why this fake news is coming, and we have to understand the veracity and check the facts of the fake news. So basically it is only a propaganda setting vehicle, or it is something where they are trying to create some kind of a conception among the people of their targeted audiences. So that way we see that basically the social media. Now the other reason why the social media has become so significant in spreading the fake news is because we don't know the origin of the source. It has been just forwarded, it is just coming, it is in the group that it comes, so we try to forward, we try to read. So that way also there is that being the reason, there is so much of growth of the fake news. But when we are coming to the newspaper or to the television or the radio, we have the source, because we have an editor who is answerable to our queries, and we have the reporters who has reported the stories. We can also check the bias. But when it is coming to the social media and the spread of the fake news, it is very difficult. Whatsoever fake news in print media, if we talk, it is something like advertorials, yeah, where they try to create some good image of the existing product so that they can target their own audiences. So the media remains most powerful in trying to make, according to the Malcolm X, we see that the media has played a very important role, where it can make an innocent to a guilty and guilty to the innocent. So it all helps in socialization also. So with this, I'll end here my class. If you have any queries or something, please you can contact me. You have another class, so I'm ending the class. Okay, ma?
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Good day, madam.
Thank you, madam. చేస్తున్నా ఆయన ఈసారి వేసుకుంటూ గాసాలు అట్లా వస్తుంటా నువ్వు వేసుకపోయేదా ఇదే అక్కడ పడతలే మామా జర ఆమెకు సాల్ చూపిరు మళ్ళీ అంతా ఉల్టా పల్ట అవుతుంది. జర మెల్ల చూపిరి మన సర్వపురం ఉంటది. చూసుకో మధ్యలో 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 చూసుకో. దా వేసిన
అన్నది
హై అంత పోయి అంటది మళ్ళీ మంది సరిపోవాలంటది. ఎత్తు ఎత్తు అంటే మనం మంది సరిపోవాలంట.